Hi everybody, Painting for Pleasure, and your host Tony Visco. And we're going to take you on a journey up to Maine again. We're going to do a Maine lake, and we're going to do a sunset on that Maine lake. So I sketched it out. It's in front of you. Could probably take you through the sketching process, but maybe I'll do that. But right now I'm just looking for a way to get this thing tacked down. So we'll get some tape, put it up in the top, and we're going to just sort of run this. I've sketched it, but I'm going to sketch it. I'm actually going to go take you through the process again. So for those of you that are working with me right now, basically, landscape is back here, so my line is this way. And I've got some tree lines over here, and I've got some tree lines that are along here. Okay, and then what I've done is I'm going to wrap. This is going to come around a little bit and end probably somewhere over here with a fairly large pine tree that's right there. So it just gives me a slight curve, and I'm taking some fairly large boulders and putting them in. Over here, I've got a little tiny boat over here, a couple of people, a couple of rocks out here, maybe a little fisherman out here. We'll see what happens. Tree limb coming down this way and pointing over in this direction here. Now, down here, usually I wouldn't split this up. I might end up cutting the bottom off of it a little bit. But what I have here is some driftwood. And these are just pieces of driftwood that are sticking up in the air. It's from a photograph. Actually, this is from a photograph that was one of my students was working on in an oil class that I teach. So I thought maybe it may make an interesting piece for us to do. Changing it around a bit. Rocks, shadow on this side, rock over here coming over this way, shadow on this side, rock in here, rock up to this point here with shadow down in this area here. We'll bury some of this in the sand. And what I want to do is to bring my driftwood sort of down in this area here. These are all sort of pieces that have gathered together. I guess maybe somebody put them in a pile, I'm not sure. But again, this is all about the driftwood coming down over this way here, and it's got to be leaning on something, so we'll put a piece of driftwood in there. And we got this huge piece of driftwood that's coming down here and is going to be buried in the sand this way here. Okay, and what I thought I'd do is I take the back of an old boat. Now the back being, what I'm saying is that it's broken. The rib is broken in half. This is just an old boat that's sitting out here. It's been sitting out here for a long time. And just wanted to add something else to this. We'll call it the Tony. I don't know why. Broken down, I guess. Okay. And we got a rock that's up against it here. And so we got maybe a bench, back of the boat, right here, the ribs coming down, coming down, coming down on this side, and then all right, so just so that it's a broken up back. I don't know why, but maybe I thought it might be interesting. Who knows? So the rest of this stuff I'm going to fudge in this area here, but this is the primary area. So let's go through the process of giving this some moisture. And what I'm going to do is start to bring in some light, interesting light values. I want to clean my palette first, so the first thing I'm going to do is just do that. I got some interesting colors. I'll just that are in my palette, but I don't want them as muted right now. I want some bright colors, so I'm going to just come over here and wash my palette out. Sometimes what I'll do is use some of the colors that are in my palette to start my painting. Other times I'll start fresh. And it just doesn't make any difference what you do, just as long as you start somewhere. So let's just take a look at this. Now this is going to be, again, we're going to do a sunset, sunrise kind of thing. We're going to throw some nice bright color in here. What I'm doing is I'm taking some of my opera, and we'll bring it in here. We're going to do opera with a little bit of orange as we come down. It's going to reflect into the water. And as we move over here, now we're going to move over here to a little bit more violet. My violet color, so I'm going to change up to make this a little bit more violet in terms of see if we can get a little bit stronger violet. Change this up a bit. Okay, and I'm going to go right over this whole area. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to paint my dark over this whole thing anyway. So this is all going to come down. We're going to end up having this cobalt blue, mixture of cobalt blue. My violet's going to be cobalt blue and my opera, cobalt blue and opera. Light color, and I'm going to actually come down and bring this stuff right down into my boat actually, and into my landmass over here. We're going to change the landmass up a little bit. This is all background. We'll leave a little bit of light over here. It's all going to be darker. Everything is going, all this stuff is going to be darker, but I want to just start to get something in here. All right. So we want to get this nice and bright, some of this area in here. Now, this is crappy paper, friends. This is, we go through this, I know we've gone through this in the past. It's going to curl up on me. So, I either have to tape it down or let it dry. I think I'll do what I can to tape it down right now so that it doesn't curl up. this much. I don't normally do this, but we will. Little piece over there, little piece over here. Helps to keep it down. It's going to curl a little bit, but we'll get this good shape. And I'm going to take a little bit of spray here. Add a little bit of spray to this. So what I've got is some nice, interesting, bright colors. I'll be darkening up a lot of this stuff over here. And some of it I'm going to lighten up. But this is my core colors, I guess is what I'm suggesting here. It's just core colors, my background. I'm going to make some wisps in here. This is light coming through. I want to bring my light down into this area here a little bit more, and I might want to add some light into this area here, and maybe wisp some of this over here, bring some light into this here. And on the boat, yeah, I want to make some of this a little bit more interesting here. All right, a little bit of light. A little bit of dark, some of this stuff. So again, I gotta let it dry a bit. Let's dry it out a little bit more. Let's get my round brush. Get some clean water in here, and we're going to try to do a relief and make my name stand out a little bit more with the name, my name, but the name of the boat. So we'll give that a shot. This is still pretty wet. I'm doing some a little bit deeper colors in some of this area. These are the shadows. Shadows on the rocks. Now the colors I'm using are the same colors right up here. I just mixed them up. It's just stuff off my palette. You can see what I'm doing here is this is just the basic colors that I just put down. Just adding a little bit more intensity in terms of the values that are going on here for the shadowed areas. We're going to bring all this stuff in here, and this is all going to be shadowed anyway. And I think we'll start to look at this a little bit more fresher. Probably put some shadow in here, like this rock here. We're going to probably put some shadow on this back side of the boat. Okay, just to break it up a little bit more. So as this dries, I'm just going to pull this down a bit. See if I can anyway. Tighten it. Start to make the stuff a little bit darker back here. It's a little bit on the wet side. I'll get a little bit more stronger pigment here. Working with my blues. Again, cobalt blue. But what I'm trying to do is, my cobalt blue and my opera, or alizarin crimson, maybe we'll just add a little bit of alizarin crimson to this, and cobalt blue, and we'll try to see how, start to put some of these trees in here. And the heavier the pigment, the more buttery, I guess, the consistency of the pigment, the more it's apt to stay where you put it. Okay, so one of the issues is how we want to handle this, and it's silhouetted. All right, so it's all going to be in a silhouette fashion. And I'm going around my light area. My rocks are going to be a little bit on the lighter side. We have holes, obviously, in the trees. That is to say, windows, or like I said, holes that are... And when you get into tree structure, what ends up happening is you're seeing through the trees itself to the sky in the background. And as you get down into the land mass down here, you're not going to see as much. I'm going to actually change that up, make it a little bit warmer by adding some burnt sienna into this area back here as this comes down. All right, a little bit more blue. It's clumpy, not clumpy, but clunky. All right. All right, so we've got our barrage of trees back there. Now I want to get back here a little bit more and take a look at a landmass that's somewhat over in this area here. All right, and this is all going to be silhouetted. And again, I'm mixing up cobalt blue and my opera and my alizarin crimson. So here's what's going to happen here. We're going to put some massive land over here with some trees in it. All right. Okay, so we got some of that stuff in the background, and let's get rid of those. Rock there. I had a boat there, but we'll change it around a little bit. Some dark one there. Okay, so let's go back to my foreground and start to take a look at maybe delineating some of this a little bit more. We have what I'm doing now is I'm going to add in some yellow ochre into this foreground area so that I can get some of this area a little bit darker. All right. So this is almost like a monochromatic painting right now, but we're going to end up having some shadows in this area here, which we will fix in a minute, make that a little bit more definitive. But we've got some rocks that are over here and stuff that's going to be shadowed in this area down here. Got some soft sand, and we're going to end up coming in here and making this a little bit more interesting by softening that up a bit more. And we got some real dark in there, and I think what we're going to do is we just add a little bit, make that a little bit warmer. And bring this down. The side of my boat is going to be blue. Not blue, but in shadow. I'm going to make this all in shadow. See if I can get a little bit darker, less watery. Don't want to put my head in there, so if my head's in there, just it's not going to help. Okay, shadow in that boat, shadow here, these are the ribs, And we're going to end up probably doing something like this. Okay. So we're outlining that. We got some rocks that are over here that we have to sort of outline. Not so much outline, but we want to put some sort of shadow in there. Shadow on this rock coming down this way. And let's get some of this red and brown together. Make this nice and bright. Okie doke. Make that shadowy right there. But it's pretty deep and tense in there. All right. So we got all this movement going on. We need to soften this up a bit. A little bit of shadow in this area here. Now we're making some shadows in here. Sand is going to come up this way. We'll define all of that in a minute. We need to make this a little bit more standoffish, or make it stand out a little bit more. Okay. So I'm adding just a little bit of cobalt blue to this. Okay, for my shadows. And this whole thing is going to be in shadow. Actually, this whole area is going to be a little bit more in shadow. And coming down this way, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to shadow this area here. we'll shadow all of this in here. Okay, so now it's time to take a good strong look at this, maybe add some more shadows in certain areas, maybe this whole area here. We're going to darken this up. Okay, so again, I'm keeping with the same overall color structure here, in that I'm using cobalt blue, I'm using opera, I'm using a little bit of alizarin crimson, a little bit of my pyro red, yellow ochre, and burnt sienna, pretty much, and that's basically all of the stuff that's going on right now. Let me see if I can add some what I would consider watery, sandy area. Add some of this stuff in here. I want that bright. So now I'm going to let it set. So we need to define this a little bit more. We want to make this a lot darker down over here. And to do that, it means more blue. So I'm going to do my strong. Here's my cobalt blue. Add my opera to it and turn it a little bit more purplish. And we're going to strengthen this a little bit darker. Okay, cobalt blue, opera. Now, as I come out, a little bit more, I'm going to add a little bit of a change in my value, in my color rather. All right. And I'm going to come out with a little bit more orange. Now again, cadmium orange. And the cadmium orange, it's going to be with a touch of that's opera that I'm adding to the cadmium orange. Okay, and then I'm going to work it all over here too as well. And get a little bit more of this touch of my purples in there. Add some of this purple in here. And add some of that deep purple in there. And we're going to end up letting it dry. Now I have to deepen up. What I have to do now is go back and really make this background area much darker, much deeper. So it's going to demand this heavier blue. So I'm going to use my French ultramarine blue, and I'm going to use my alizarin crimson. It's going to probably even get darker than this. Again, the blue I'm using, French ultramarine blue, and I just added a little bit of my New Gamboge to this to get it greenish in terms of the tone, hoping to get it a little bit darker in these areas. Now I know you guys are all sort of looking at this thing and saying, well, why, maybe we should move this, maybe we should move this over actually more. Into this area here. Let's bring this down a bit more. let's get this dark right along the shore. Let me get that nice and dark. And we're going to start to do start over here, I think. We're going to start to get some rocks more defined. Now I'm using some real darks to define some of these a little bit more. And it looks like I'm going to have to even get this even darker. I don't want to do too much more. So I'm really letting this sort of dry in spots. We're going to have to go over this a little bit more. So a little bit of alizarin crimson. Make this even darker. Heavy pigment. I'm gonna make this. We'll make this real dark in here. Combination, my blacks, my darks, really black. Combination of burnt sienna, French ultramarine blue, heavy, very heavy pigmented. Super heavy pigmented area. Get the side of this boat. Okie doke. And I'm gonna end up making this all nice and dark down here too as well. Okay. Now, this is very strong. I want to see if I can lift some of this. Let's get water, a lot of water. Brighten this up a bit. Again, water. Pull it out, some tissue. Okay, so let's get down to, I guess, brass tacks here. I'm going to try to get some more detail defined. Using my smaller brushes. What I want to do is give this a little bit of a glow. So I'm putting some glow in there and I'm rubbing it out. Don't want it white, but I do want it to give it a feeling of sunlight, glow. All right. And the same way with over some of this area right here. Now what I'm doing is I'm just using my light pen, my light brush, my small brush. Give it some real strong value, bright colors, stronger value than is there, than I've had it. Right, because we want this to come down, and we're going to end up starting to build this into more of the kind of deadwood, driftwood kind of stuff that's out there. And remember, it's got a sort of a glow to it because we're in an area out here where the sun is really down and slow, and it's coming up, and there's a lot of bright sun that's coming across this. So maybe a thin line right here. Now my darks that I'm using again are burnt sienna and French ultramarine blue, and the more burnt sienna I get, the warmer it's going to be. So if I want it a little bit warmer, I'll add a little bit more burnt sienna to my dark. But essentially what I'm doing is coming down here and creating crevices or cracks. In some of this. And one of the ways to do it is just get a little bit of water. As an example, we can do it right here. Take a little bit of water, come in here and add a little bit of water to it, and then put the darks in there and let it come down. Tends to be darker down in this area here where there's more shadow. Okay. And we're going to come in here with a little bit of dark. A lot darker in there. And we're going to make this one lighter. And when we get back over in here, we're going to have to darken this all up again. Okay. Let's see what we're going to do. So I've been quiet over here just modeling this, and I've got a little bit more modeling to do as well. I'm going to have to bring back, I think I put a little bit too much glow in that, and I'm going to have to bring it back. So I need to do something. I'm going to try to bury this bow in the water. And in order to do that, let's see. What we need to do is to bring let's do this first of all. Let's make some darks. Let's do something here. Let's make some darks here. Okay. And we'll make this more rib-like. Okay, and we're going to end up all right, so that takes care of roughly that. We'll make this a little darker here as it comes across. All right, now I need to, what did I say I wanted to do? I want to bring the water right to this, so it looks like this whole thing is sort of sitting in the water here. I don't know if it'll work, but we'll see. And we'll bring the water up a little bit. So it's swishing around. Right, so again, the dark. Red sienna, French ultramarine blue, we can make that a little darker. Make this a little darker in here as well. We have okay. We'll do that. I'm going to make that darker right there. We have shadow in here. I want to give this some character here. Some, let's see, we'll do it this way. Adding a little bit of shadow in here. And we got to add some shadow in here as well. Help that along a little bit. Okay, now let's get some shadow in the, let's do something else here. Let's get some darks. I want a big dark thing. Well, first of all, I think what I want to do is I want to put in, see if I can do this here. Let's see if I can put in a guy that's out there fishing in a boat. In order to do that, I don't want to get this thing wet, so we'll just come over here and soften that up a bit. So what I want to do is I want to just add a little water to this area over here that I just put in. And what I want to do is I added a little, I got a little guy that's out here. I just put in, or made him a little bit more interesting. Just taking a little bit of water. And softening this up a little bit here. So it's sort of reflections. Give it a little bit more of a reflective quality to it. Same way with some of this stuff over here. And remember, you're probably using a much better piece of paper to do this with than I am. Okay. And the other thing I want to do is I'm going to add some water down here. I want to add some, so we have some shadow in this area. All in this area right here. Actually, let me take the big brush. We're going to add some water. And I'm going to make this all shadow. And again, cobalt blue, a little bit of Naples yellow, I'm sorry, a little bit of opera, cobalt blue. Get some shadow in here. dark shadow. And a little bit of value to this stuff here. I want to look beyond that. I want the golden look, but I don't want it to be, I want some golden look to this, but I don't necessarily want it to be too yellow looking. So we got all of this stuff is going to be in shadow there too. We want to look beyond that. Okay. This did not work out as well as I had hoped it would work. Let me just try this again. I'm hoping that that does the job. The paper's rough to work with. Tone this down a bit here. Maybe a little bit of tonal values there. Maybe make some of this a little bit darker out here. Let's see where this goes. I probably should, I'm overworking it now. Oh, major time, major overwork. All right, we're going to let that go, let that set up. See what happens. Let that dry out. Picking up some of this stuff over here, make some of this a little darker. Okay. So rather than me continue to overwork it, I'm going to let this set up. I think that's going to be a painting. Let's see how this dries out. We'll go from there. Thank you very much for being with me. I'm your host, Tony Visco.